one amazing series of YA novels, an insatiable thirst to relive the glory that is K.A. Applegate's literary masterpiece. This is Animorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. Animorphs number 20, The Discovery.
Hello and welcome to the Dork-Bajir Chronicles, a podcast where we read through the Animorphs series one book at a time, and then we talk about it every week. Today we'll be talking about Animorphs number 20, The Discovery, which is, I guess, unofficially or officially part one of the three-part DAVID trilogy.
That is what a trilogy means, Mikhail.
I haven't introduced you yet. You're not allowed to talk. My name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa, a ghost from the future who's an expert on Animorphs.
I'm Brayden. I don't think I've ever actually said it. I think I've just come up with shitty jokes, but I'm the newbie.
So I have been waiting for like a literal calendar year for Brayden to read this book. And I'm so excited.
This episode is technically, we have been doing this podcast for 364 days because our first episode came out June 5th of last year.
Yep.
And this will be coming out on June 4th. So congrats to us, I guess.
Woo, we should have
Birthday
a cake.
cake's in the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I'm cutting it right now. Is that chocolate and vanilla? Nice. It's a swirl of color, just like this podcast. Diversity.
I mean, sure. Anyways, since we're probably gonna have a lot to talk about this specific episode and probably the next two books.
Yes.
Let's blast through some fan mail, because we just finished watching the first 8 episodes of the TV show, and people had a lot to say about that. There's also an old piece of fan mail I think that Tessa has.
Fan mail! Ooh, yeah! Fan mail! Ooh, yeah!
Yes, it's from the Phyraxian Egg Roll on Tumblr. We got, okay, hear me out. The Animorphs, but they're Power Rangers. Now, I have never seen the Power Rangers. All I know is that they are mighty and they are morphing. But we can have this discussion.
No, you're already so wrong.
Well, let's have this discussion on our Facebook page. Pew, 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 pew. Real subtle reference to our Facebook page. Whew. Check us out, facebook.com/dorkbajir.
As far as people who talk to us and kind of just chatted about the TV show in general, thank you, first of all, because we didn't have a fan mail segment during last month because we wanted to just kind of blast through the TV show.
Yeah.
But people had a lot to say about this series, not surprisingly. 2 things stood out to me anyways. We had Ricardo on our Facebook page.
Yeah, good
posted
man.
a picture. He posted a picture of what I believe to be Mexican VHS tapes of the TV show, which he said he is working on getting that version on the internet or in some form that we can watch. So I am extremely hype about that. That's amazing.
Which would be amazing.
But obviously also legally purchase and pay for.
Yeah,
Of course.
One other thing that I can't believe we missed, but Dustin, again on the Facebook page, pointed out that the video game that they're playing in the episode 1, do you remember how they're playing a video game?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're playing a video game in the internet cafe that allows dogs in the mall.
In Siberia.
Yeah, the name of the cafe is Siberia or
What?
Siberia.
Wait, what? Where is that listed? Is this on some deep wiki?
Super fans would know.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Calling you out.
Oh, no. I'm only an expert on the books.
That video game was a Transformers Beast Wars game, which I had no idea, but totally makes sense thinking about what it looked like on the screen.
I mean, I believe it. Beast Wars, Transformers. These are kids that transform into beasts. Makes sense.
Oh, yeah, I didn't actually make that connection.
Hey,
That
my
makes
God.
perfect sense.
It's a metaphor!
It's theming. It's
But
thematic.
it's still... It doesn't explain why Tobias was all alone in the dark with 2 kids sitting on tables behind him, being like, bro, you're so good at this game.
Oh, buddy.
That is
you
also a
didn't-
good point.
You didn't have, like, you never went to an arcade and saw, like, clingers?
No, I was homeschooled, Brayden. I didn't go out.
Well, yeah. Okay, fair. You didn't, ever. You still don't. Let's just clarify that.
Let's clarify. I don't really.
She's as pale as a ghost. Anyways, thanks to everyone who talked to us and just shot the shit about the TV show.
Fuck yeah.
Shit, I can't find the... I think it might have even been Dustin, but somebody said that they hadn't actually read the books. They had only seen the TV show. Like, and not like Jared had, where he had sort of grimaced and watched the show reluctantly. He actually enjoys the TV show and has watched it over and over multiple times. Wow. I will find that.
Thinking back on it, I had a lot of fun watching some of those later episodes when they kind of went off the books or interpreted the books their own way. Like, specifically that shot in where they do the episode for book 17, The Underground, and it's like Marco and Jake are grabbing the French fry from each other, and they're talking about how dumb it is that the plot of this episode is about oatmeal saving the world. And then just some zany Nickelodeon fun. It was a good time.
Some real
It felt like a betrayal.
Whoa. It's wacky. Marco's got a flower on his lapel. Whoa, it squirts water.
New year, new me, and all that jazz. I'm trying to be more positive.
Brayden's the same shit. This is basically a retake of our first episode.
Oh my god.
God damn it.
This is a lot more serious, though, because, well, first of all, we get a good classic breakdown of the goof, the A-plot, and the B-plot in this book,
Hell yeah.
which has been sorely lacking. So I'll do the summary for this book, and then you'll cycle through like usual. The goof in this book, we start off with Marco, just straight macking on this girl, I guess.
Mackin means making out, Mikhail. He is hitting on her.
Brayden, is that correct? I don't think that's correct.
No.
Yeah, yes, it is. What are you talking about?
Macking comes from Mac Daddy. And
what? No,
Mac
it doesn't.
You're
it so
does.
Full of shit.
And Mac Daddy's, it means it's Marco being smooth as fuck.
Or trying.
It does not work very well.
Trying to be smooth. Oh no, buddy.
Anyways,
I mean, that line should have worked. That was a good line. Tashandra is just dense.
It's all about delivery, though. So, Mikhail, when you tell us this line, give us to us smooth like, and then give it to us like an awkward 13-year-old boy who's fumbling.
Marco is not fumbling.
Let's see 2 takes, please.
all right. You ready?
On your own pace.
So do I have to read the narration and everything?
No, just the line.
Okay. Tashandra. Marco. Beautiful name for a beautiful girl. What is? Marco? No. Tashandra. What? Tashandra. I was just saying I thought it would be a beautiful name for a beautiful girl. Oh, really? It would be, huh? And so on and so forth. But anyways.
She's like, yeah, you're so if only I didn't have this name because I'm ugly, blah, blah, blah. Marco's confused.
Classic female wiles.
Marco loves seeing the best in everybody, and he just did not expect this lovely, lovely girl with a lovely name to be just this dense. Poor bastard.
But Mikhail, we do need that second take of the awkwardness, please.
The awkwardness?
Yes.
Like, give me, what do you mean?
You know what? How about I play the awkwardness and you play Tashandra?
Yeah, totally.
All right. Hey, Tashandra.
Marco.
Beautiful name for a beautiful girl.
What is Marco?
No, Tashandra.
What?
I'm just thinking Tashandra is like a beautiful name for a beautiful girl. You know.
Oh,
like,
really? It would be, huh? For a beautiful girl. But not for me, huh?
Yeah. I mean, but like for a beautiful girl, like.
I guess I am too much of a pig to have the name.
I'm just gonna go. Let's pretend this
I'm just
conversation
kidding.
never happened. Oh god!
I'm just kidding.
Gunshots! Somebody fired a weapon! Ah! Okay, but he explains that his I don't get females. Women are so confusing. I complimented this one girl by saying she looked like a boy, and her boyfriend got mad at me. And it's like, I mean, yeah, but that one was your mistake. Tashandra,
Yeah, that was bad.
I'll give you the first one.
All right.
Not so much.
We are talking way too much about this. That was just an amazing Marco moment. So the A-plot in this book is actually pretty, I want to say pretty separated actually from the B plot in a way that we don't usually see. But I'll just go through the A plot, and I understand that I'll be skipping over parts of the B plot while I'm talking, but I want to separate them because I think that's important. So, the A plot is Eric DeChee meets up with the gang outside a Burger King this time, which...
Inside the Burger King.
I don't know. Inside the Burger King, which is like, I guess you gotta mix up your fast food brands.
Total betrayal of McDonald's.
Maybe because the Yerkpool entrance is there, they're like, well, clearly we shouldn't be like meeting at the McDonald's.
You gotta suck a couple dicks before you find out who pays the most for it.
Anyways, Eric has some intel for the Animorphs so that there's gonna be... They didn't give it a name, but it's like G8 is kind of what I got the feeling, like where it's leaders of different nations that come to talk about some issue that's important. Eric also tells them... okay, so the meeting is really close by. That's also why probably he's telling them this. He knows that at least one of the leaders... And this gets confusing over this book, but like, he says one of the leaders is a Yerk. But Cassie later says, well, he didn't say it couldn't be more than one. It must be just at least one. Anyways, it doesn't matter. One of the leaders is for sure a Yerk. Their job is basically to fuck it up, because obviously they're going to try to infest the other leaders. So the Animorphs just need to fuck up that plan. They don't know how or why. They just know it's like going to be super, super, super protected by all the security from every different country and stuff. And they're meeting at the Marriott Hotel, which I also thought was a weird name drop. Like, shout out to Marriott, I guess.
I mean, they couldn't exactly go to the Super 8.
Just say hotel or like resort or something.
Like I said, man. Like I said, you gotta, like, to
find
get
those
sponsors, you gotta suck them off first. Let them know they're getting their money's worth.
And also, just to, like, ground the series in reality.
Yeah.
Of course. Anyways, so one of the issues is that it's now super far to get there, which has kind of always been an issue for them, like in general. So anyways, they decide to fly out. Is this when they morph seagulls?
It's not, no, but they morph seagulls in the next one, I believe. But it's not, the issue isn't that it's super far. It's that they have to morph something and then travel there from far away because they can't, because of the security is going to be so tight in like the miles and miles leading up to this hotel.
Sorry.
Right.
Wait. Right. Okay. Sorry. You keep going.
Okay.
Okay. I think Brayden just like...
I'm just saying you're kind of skipping over the start of the meat of this book because
and that's exactly what Mikhail said he was going to do at the beginning.
I'm just trying to get
if you don't
this out of the way because this is obviously relevant for the next two books, or at least the next.
But they literally
book,
don't even start going to the Marriott until book 21.
Exactly. No, wait. Did I miss something? The helicopter gets sucked up into the blade ship. That happens in this book, doesn't it?
That happens in this book, yeah. So what they do is they are flying out in Bird of Prey, and they see a helicopter, which Tobias recognizes as, it's the president's helicopter. One of them's the dummy. And then they see a shimmer in the air, and they're like, that's the blade ship sucking up a helicopter.
I remember all this.
Q.
Brayden, you got me fucked up.
Blue Q.
I got this right. Okay. All right. So they fly out to the Marriott in their their raptor morphs, and on the way there, like I guess relatively like halfway there, I guess they see the helicopter, which is Marine One, as Marco points out,
Tobias.
Which is the Tobias points. Oh yeah, that's right. Tobias points out. Oh yeah, and Rachel has a weird moment. She's like, "You're so smart, Tobias."
Because she loves him. Because they're meant for each other.
Also, I feel like after Megamorphs 2, Tobias's character becomes a little bit more of like a trivia guy, where he just like knows random shit, and that's like Rachel's in to like him. Anyways,
because she's also super smart. She won that Packard Award.
Yeah, she's high school smart.
Yeah.
Tobias is Jeopardy smart.
I mean, I won a lot of fucking awards in high school, but it was mostly because I wasn't a little shit. All you have to do to win awards in junior high school is not be shitty to the teachers.
This is true.
Yeah.
Anyhow, they see these helicopters. There's two, right? So there's
the real one
main
and the
one. Well, no, isn't there two? There's the main one that has obviously the person of importance in it. Then there's a following one.
Well, they don't know which one has the person of importance in it because
right.
one of them is the decoy.
Can we take a pause quick? Why are you choosing to do the helicopters first before we explain why David is there as well?
Because he wants to really finish plot A before he gets into plot B, which he said at the beginning of the episode if you listened.
I know, but it's pretty relevant that David's there. We should probably...
Not at this point. In the A story, they're just dealing with this Marriott Hotel reunion with all of the leaders. It doesn't get... nothing.
David doesn't go on the mission, does he?
He's on the mission, but he literally does not matter on this mission until book 21.
No,
David... whole book 20, he doesn't matter. He kills a raven, yeah, it's creepy. That's his story. It has nothing to do with the Marriott. The Marriott thing has nothing to do with David in book 20. They're just happening simultaneously.
I'm treating it like a discussion point, Brayden. That's why. Yeah. Because, it's like, there is clearly a plot, but there's also a very distinct second plot that I feel like is totally separate.
We'll just give due diligence and treat them very separately this time.
Like them finding David and everything leading up to that is like 75% of the book. The helicopter stuff and getting to the hotel is like the last 20. But keep going.
Oh my god. Mikhail,
this is Brayden telling me how to do summaries. Mikhail, I'm blown away.
I know the audacity. Mikhail, okay. I'm on board. I like your vibe. You do you, boo.
Brayden, you can do your plot however you want to do it. It's all you, boo. Okay?
I.
Okay. Where's my cursor here? All right. So they see the lead helicopter get kind of essentially sucked up into the blade ship that's totally cloaked, and it's not described super well, but it's basically it's cloaked completely except for the opening at the bottom, which they can see, but the following helicopter can't see. And then it scoops up the main helicopter while producing a hologram to replace it with, so that the following helicopter never actually sees the original helicopter disappear.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah. Good job.
Yep.
Gold star.
I think that, okay.
But simultaneously, 7 birds fly into the helicopter. 5 birds fly into the helicopter.
That's right. They barely make it in. Oh no, but Rachel and Tobias are still outside.
Yeah, so only 5 of them.
That's right.
Fly in.
Which makes sense because she's the biggest bird. Anyways, they sneak inside. It's typical Animorph mission. They morph cockroaches at one point. They get found out, but not before. Visser 3 acquires the morph of a guy who has a slash in his shoe, which is the only detail they have about this guy. I assumed it was the U.S. president.
Yeah.
I feel like we're supposed to think that.
That's what that's what the kids assume too.
Okay.
But we find out more in book 21.
Yes. I remember this distinctly from my first read that anyways, it doesn't matter. We'll find out later. So they morph cockroaches, they get found out. They try to get back to the helicopter. There's a bunch of crazy shit that happens. They actually get sucked out of the hatch at the bottom as it opens up.
They almost, the Yeerks have raid now because they figured out, these guys can be really small. Let's get some raid.
Which, makes a lot of sense. Pretty smart move, actually.
Yeah, good job. Good job, Yeerks.
Use the tools of the land to defeat the enemies of the land. Anyways, the hatch, right. So the bugs get sucked out, and then they're just, falling out of the hatch. And that's the end of the book. Right, so obviously, I skipped over a big chunk.
Some people might have issue with it, but if we have trust in Mikhail, we know that all's going to be okay.
For fuck's sake.
The reason I saved this B-plot for last is because I think it's actually much more important. Dude, what's that law in psychology where the first and last thing you talk about are the most important memory-wise?
Yeah, because nobody cares about the shit in the middle because most of the time it's dull, but it's the first and the last bit that you really remember.
That's why you get introduced second, Tessa. Oh!
Burn!
Shots fired.
Okay, Mr. Tarantino, Mr. non-linear storytelling. Go on.
Brayden, you stay 10,506 feet away from me, please. 10,506 feet, you say?
I don't know what that's a reference
It's
to.
a reference to Tarantino liking feet. Anyway.
Oh, okay. So the B plot, which is happening the whole time I just described the A plot. So they're definitely layered on top of each other, but don't really directly affect each other until the next book.
The next book. If I may briefly interrupt, this is because I like how you called the A plot the Marriott one, because it is, I guess, kind of the bigger story in a sense, but the B plot is
so
way
much
more
less
important
of this story.
and so much more like resonant with what's happening in the book, which is very interesting because normally it's swapped.
The bulk of the book, volume of pages wise, is actually the B plot, but because the A plot is the mission, quote unquote, and the B plot is the character development, quote unquote, that's why I called the B plot that, because that's been the format so far.
Well, and I totally agree with you. It's just interesting that the B plot is so heavy in this book because normally it's not. But wait till you see what this is. It a B plot or a D plot?
He's got a gun. Pew 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 pew.
Okay, so
kid has a gun.
Skip back to the beginning of the book, right after Marco and Tashandra have their encounter, shall we say?
Wild sex.
Marco, I think he just notices that there's a new kid, and that new kid has the Escafil device, the blue box that gave them the morphing power from the construction lot, which is like, for people reading this who didn't know, I did know this. But Brayden, I'm curious to know if that was like a oh holy shit moment, because it's kind of a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, I figured like it's got to be Yes, it is. It delivers magic powers, and this kid just has magic powered delivery service now. So
yeah, totally.
It was quite surprising how easy. It was quite surprising that it was just delivered by some Randy.
His name's not Randy. His name's David. Pew, 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 pew.
The kid's name is David. He's a new kid at school. He found the blue box. He says he just found it in the construction lot.
Yeah.
Like, literally just says that.
I think later on the story is that he was throwing rocks, and it broke apart a cinder block, and he found it in the cinder block. I think he said that.
Okay.
Hell of a throwing whatever. Blocking a cinder block.
They talk about it. Obviously, Marco tries to like get it from him in a low stakes kind of way, and the kid's like, "No way, this is cool as shit. I want it." So Marco reports all this to the gang, and the gang Axe even says like, because they look at Axe and they're like, is it like indestructible? Is that why it didn't get destroyed when Elfangar's ship got like incinerated? And Axe is like, no, it could be destroyed. It's just a coincidence. I thought that was so funny. Like, it's probably just whatever. Clear the blast.
all the shit that they bother like making up, even for those tiny little spiels about morphing and Z space. That all of us just like this blue cube. Hey, is this blue cube indestructible? No, this is just wild shit.
Yeah, just like statistically, it's improbable but not impossible. I was like, wow, that's a cop out, but I love it so much. So they decide that they obviously can't let him keep it, not only for the fact that, like, hey, they should probably be in control of this device, but also because he would be in danger, right? Because if any of the Yeerks know that he has it, they're going to probably kill him or make him a controller, right?
Yeah. Sidebar, Mikhail, this was a better way to do this.
Oh, thank you so much, because this is the real juicy part.
What? What was a better way to do this?
The way he's doing it.
Oh, Mikhail.
The plot
thing. Yeah, no. Agreed. Brayden, if you just had a little bit of faith.
Tessa, I understand that you agreed. I don't know if you noticed, but you went on about how you agreed. Mikhail, please
God.
Hold it over you for the rest of the episode.
Okay. There's still a lot left. So they basically just are like, let's just fucking steal it.
Let's bust on through with Mammo Swine.
Yeah, they find his house by like flying over the suburbs where they know he lives.
Guys,
I think they follow him. Tobias follows. It doesn't matter.
It's real creepy, but it works.
Yeah, he's home in the middle of the day. Is this the part where it's the middle of the day?
It's the middle of the night first.
Yes. It's the middle of the night, right?
Jake and Marco have a goofy bit where they go into the bathroom together, and Jake has to say that his little brother has beaconoma because they get caught, and the manager of this Burger King thinks they're doing drugs.
That was pretty good. I like that a lot.
It was pretty funny.
It's not relevant to the plot, though. Anyways, Marco, who is, I don't know if we mentioned Marco is the narrator in this one. He totally is.
Yeah. I feel like the narrators are starting to matter less and less because, like, even when we are just seeing it from Marco's point of view, like, when we hear Cassie say something or Rachel say something, we know what they're thinking. We know why they're saying it.
Well, because we know the characters.
Because we
more,
know them,
Brayden.
yeah.
There's some later books where it's like wildly appropriate that that's the narrator for that book, but
Yeah.
this one, it doesn't really matter. Other than the relationship between Marco and David, but we'll talk about that in a second. So basically the plan is this the part where he swoops in
Yep.
and hits the stick?
He hits the stick and closes the window, and Tobias
Yeah.
bonks into the window.
There's a stick holding the window open, and Marco's just like, oops, didn't see it, and he knocks it down, which is also like, I know it's 1994, they had windows that didn't need fucking
need
sticks
But
to
also,
keep them open.
why are they going in as birds of prey?
Also, why was the plan to like swoop into the room instead of landing on the windowsill?
Right? If you want to be super conspicuous, just fucking morph chimpanzees and crawl in there. You got hands. You can pick up a box. A bird's got
Anyways.
wings.
Dude, they cannot get that close to a chimpanzee. A chimp would fuck them up.
Oh, just wait till book 28.
Marco flies into the room. I think he like slams against a dresser or something.
The far
And then,
wall, he doesn't break in time.
He gets
Yeah.
underneath. He gets stuck underneath a dresser.
Oh, no, he gets stuck between the wall and the bed.
Right.
And then the cat comes in.
Yeah, fucking, what's the cat say? Megadeth?
Megadeth.
Yeah, fucking Megadeth. And he fucks with Marco, obviously, because a cat versus an osprey. He's an osprey, right? Yeah. Not really a great... It's kind of like a mongoose versus a snake, where it's like, it would be a wicked fight, because they're so closely matched. Anyways.
Osprey versus cat. That's our hypothetical question of the week for next week's episode. Who would win a fight?
So anyways, Marco tries to like get the blue box, but David's heard all the ruckus and he climbs up the stairs. He's like, what the fuck? He's clearly trying to steal my box here. David has a BB gun,
Yeah,
which is like,
pulls
that's
out a
not a
gun.
good sign that a
Which-
kid is willing to immediately pull a gun out and shoot animals.
I mean, when it's in your house, like attacking your pets,
Yeah,
I think
close the door. Close the door. Done.
What?
Problem solved.
What do you? It's already in the problem solved. You have no idea. Like this thing is a mindless beast. It might kill your fucking cat.
We know from this very scene that David is just ready to fucking kill a bird. And we find out later in the book that, yeah, David is ready to fucking kill a bird.
Yeah, Brayden, don't try to pretend like it's not completely in David's character to be a total sociopath and shoot animals on sight for just like the most minimal threat.
He's just like, he gets off on
I
violence.
think Brayden relates to David too much.
I think
It's starting
so.
to scare
It
me.
makes me uncomfortable. I asked him earlier today about because we were getting hyped for this recording, and I asked him, Brayden, what would you do if you just caught a raven?
He said, "Call me David."
He's like, well, first off,
I
call me
said
David.
it doesn't
And
matter
second-
whether I'd personally kill an animal or not. What matters is the context of this. Is that it doesn't matter that everything that happens to David is pretty fucked up.
And also, he said that he did catch a raven and threw rocks at it trying to kill it.
No, I didn't. I said
that's
I found a bag in a tree, noticed there was already a bird in it. Me and some friends took it down and let the crow, raven, whatever out, and when it fucking came at us, I threw a rock at it.
You said it was several rocks when you relayed the story to me. You also said you were 8, so his problem started early.
What the fuck?
They always do.
But then then the cobra from underneath David's bed comes out to
Oh
bite.
God, this
And
is
it's
a
like-
whole
No,
thing.
the cobra doesn't come out this time.
No,
Oh
he
yeah,
doesn't.
that's the second time they go back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This time Marco tries to grab tries to basically fly out of the house with the box. Rachel swoops in and helps him. I think she breaks through the window or something.
She busts open the window, with
Yeah.
a rock.
Yeah, and she's like, okay, let's do this. We'll do it together.
And then she somehow opens the patio door.
That could happen. She's a big bird.
She is a big bird.
And a big girl. That sounded really weird.
Really
I meant to say she's smart and she
it
can
was
open the door.
it was like you were like a proud father for a second. It's weird. It's like, Rachel, she's a big girl.
At the last second, though, I believe Marco gets hit with the BB, and basically drops the box. So they don't get the box in this escapade.
Tobias is fine, by the way. He wakes up. He was having this clue dream, so throughout the whole, like, helter-skelter, he was like Professor Plum in the conservatory with the candlestick, and it's riotous. Rolling on the floor laughing.
Anyways, the next day, David approaches Marco, and he's like, yo, this is fucking wild. Like, two birds tried to steal this box. Like, it's obviously worth something, so I'm going to try to sell it online. And he said I think at that same conversation, he's like, I think I found a buyer for the device. And Marco's like, well, did you tell him your address? And he's like, I have an automated email set up for when I get home from school to tell them my address, which, let's not talk about that right now, but that is buck wild. Like, if you think about it, that's insane. But
a scheduled email.
And also the solution they try to find to stop it. So the gang is like, okay, well, we need to try again, because obviously we can't. Like, the buyer is clearly, because I think David said that he was going to get $1,000 for it or something.
It was like all kinds of money, which is like, all right, Visser 3, that's Visser 3.
Clearly, right? So they're like, we need to get it back before the email even goes out. We need to, like, stop the email from going out. So they're like, we need your help, Axe. And I think actually somewhere between reaching David's house and the initial thought is like, why don't you just unplug the computer?
Yeah.
And Marco's like, oh, darn, how did I not think of that? There's a lot of reasons why that doesn't make sense.
Buddy.
They're not relevant really to what we're talking about right now. But anyways.
There's no way it would work.
There's a lot happening here. Marco...
It happened because Applegate and Grant needed more people at this house.
Exactly. Yeah. That's pretty much it. So Axe and Marco... The plan is for Axe and Marco to basically swoop in, fix the email thing, take the box, and leave, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
However, I'm pretty sure what... I can't remember exactly.
They land in the backyard. Marco, like, just opens the back door. Hey, it's unlocked. And the alarm goes off.
Yes.
And David's dad has come home early from work, so he's there. And David has already said he's, like, a spy. So Axe and Marco are upstairs. No. David is at school. This is the middle of the day. Marco cuts, like, last period.
Yeah.
Or last two periods,
David said, my dad's a spy. My cat's named Megadeth. I have a cobra named Spawn. Basically, all this, like, I'm a 12-year-old who listens to metal. What the fuck is up?
And my parents, like, give me way too much shit because don't give a snake to a kid.
Yeah.
What?
No.
A cat at least is like a family animal.
I move around a lot. I have problems. What the fuck is up?
I keep a snake in a box under my bed. Like,
Axe and Marco are upstairs, like, shitting themselves trying to unplug a computer while
a man with a gun is walking up the stairs.
And it's just like, okay, calm down, show yourself. Marco notices that the computer is an hour off, so instead of having an hour and 3 minutes before the email goes out, they've only got 3 minutes.
Also not how email works.
Yeah.
There's timed email.
There's timed email, but the server time is correct.
That's true.
And the time on your computer is also correct. So it's not like you would look at a clock and be like, well, my clock says 3, so I'll set the email to 2, even though I usually get home at 3? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Anyway,
the email should have still gone out at 3.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work, Mikhail.
Anyways, yes, it doesn't work. The email is sent out, so they know that Visser 3 is on the way, essentially. David's dad catches Axe halfway between...
Yeah, because Marco morphs a cobra and accidentally eats Axe as the spider. And he's like, did you ingest me? Right. And so he spits Axe out, and Axe demorphs so that he doesn't get the poison. So then Marco talks to David's dad, because David's dad sees this alien morphing out of the spider, and Marco pretends to be the morphing alien, and then Tobias is like, oh hey, David's coming home. So Marco tries to distract David's dad by being like, Earthling, your son cut class. And David's dad is like, haha, yes, I got off early from work. I'll ground him for a month. And then a moving van full of Dork-Bajir pulls up in front of the door.
So the Dork-Bajir and Visser 3 show up, and basically there's a standoff and whatever, but there's a giant fight that happens involving a lot of people. Like, a lot of the Animorphs are there, the Dork-Bajir are there, David, like... There's like 3 standoffs that happen in that one fight.
Yeah.
Eventually, the side of the house gets blown out, and David is like, he's standing there with the box.
I don't think it's outside. I think it's just the bedroom to, like, the bathroom and the master bedroom. I think the outside wall is still intact.
They pretty clearly say that they jumped down 2 stories, so I would think it's
that's true.
outside.
I thought it was through the window. Never mind.
Anyhow, Rachel as a bear is like, fuck this, because David's about to give the box to Visser 3. Because obviously he doesn't know what's going on. He knows that the alien trying to kill his dad wants this box, so why wouldn't he give him the box? Oh no, I'm relating to David. Anyways, Rachel charges David.
You know why that is? You know why that is?
What's that?
Because you're an adult now.
That's true. The later stuff is pretty fucked up.
I have some things to say about everyone's clear hate boner for David and how I think that came about, but Anyway, for now, go on. We'll talk about that in the discussion.
So she pushes him out basically a 2-story window, and he's okay somehow. She's okay also. To
be fair,
the conclusion
she's a
of all
bear.
of this, the conclusion of all of this is that they end up back at Cassie's barn with the morphing cube and David, but his dad and presumably his mom are captured and also presumably controllers now.
Yeah.
And so they decide, like, okay, what are our options here? It's like, leave David alone. He clearly goes back to become a controller, and then they know everything about the Animorphs.
No, he doesn't know anything about the Animorphs yet, because they're just in an alley still. David's unconscious, and they're arguing over his unconscious body. About if they leave him here, or if they save him from being a controller.
Fair enough, but I still feel like there's enough connections between the thing where Marco's like, I'll buy that blue box from you, where he's like, I clearly know what that is.
I mean,
like, that is not information they want the Yeerks to have.
I mean, that could just be like, oh, there was one kid at school who was weird, that's kind of suspicious, but there's no way to link that with anything.
You don't think they
else
would
that
follow
happened.
up on that, though? It's like, literally nobody's interested in this blue box except Marco. Why wouldn't they at least look into it?
there might have been some other kids at school, we just don't know. They might, but it's also Visser 3. He's probably going to be too concerned with turning all of his Yeerk hosts into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Hey, there we go.
Okay, the point I'm trying to make, though, is that, like, despite the fact that some people are like, why make him an Animorph at all? Why not kill him? A, you couldn't just kill him. He's pretty innocent at this point. B, like, I don't think they had a lot of options. They basically chose to give him the same responsibility that they have, trusting that he would see it as a responsibility and not a superpower or like a selfish thing. Obviously, well, we'll find out later how that all plays out. I don't want to spoil it for Brayden, but there's a lot of shit that goes down because of that decision. But that decision was kind of, I feel anyways, a forced, might have been the lesser of many evils that they could have picked. I mean, ultimately, if they had perfect 2020 like foresight, they probably could have just killed him. But anyways, we'll talk about that later. So the theme of this book, if we're getting into discussion points here, is that, like, stop fucking up, because, like, most of the major problems that happen in this book is people making dumb fucking mistakes. Like, if Marco had seen that stick, and that's a dumb thing to not see, they would have the box and it would be all done. No David, no nothing. Or if he hadn't bit Axe, like 90% of that stuff probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, but that's a lot of the Animorphs, though, right? Like, a lot of Animorphs encounters happen because one of these kids fucks up and then they have to deal with it.
I mean, I feel like the fuck-ups that they make are more, like, believable, or, like... Because at this point, I feel like you shouldn't be morphing a snake and not expecting it to, like, be a hunter. And yet, he just, like, totally loses control instantly.
Yeah.
I mean, but, like, cobras eating spiders. That doesn't sound like a cobra eating a mouse. Yeah.
I think they eat spiders.
Yeah.
They eat whatever they goddamn can.
We should ask Adam next week, who's
Anyway.
our secret guest for Live from the Gardens.
Next week.
Yeah, we should definitely ask him that.
Well, what do you guys want to talk about? Because there's a lot to
There's
pick
a lot
at,
to unpack here. There's one scene that we've alluded to later on. So, they tell David about what it's like to be an Animorph and how his parents are now Yeerked. And he chooses his first morph, which is his bird of prey morph. They have this little Merlin that they're like, oh yeah, you can morph this little Merlin. It's small and it's agile and it'll be nice and fast. Oh, by the way, we're also at the same time releasing this golden eagle. And he's like, no, I want this huge fucking golden eagle. And they're like, no, but we picked the Merlin for you. And he gets like, what? Did Jake tell you guys that you have what morphs you had to pick in the first place? Let me do this eagle. So they're like, all right, maybe. So he morphs the eagle. And on their way to the Marriott, right before the helicopter stuff happens, he's like, yeehaw, I'm doing it, dives at a crow, shreds it to pieces in the air, and everybody is like, wait, what the fuck? And he's like, oh god, I lost control of the morph.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit that happens that's clearly like, David is not the same as the others. Like, he doesn't feel the same, like, I don't want, like, social responsibility as the others do. I don't know if that's the right word, really, but, like, they all feel in some way. Like, Rachel has almost no reason to be a part of this war other than, like, she wants to fight things, but she doesn't, like, just kill birds out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean?
For no reason, yeah.
So, something's off with this kid. Brayden, I think I saw you say on Twitter as you were reading this book that you couldn't believe how many Davids you've known in your life.
Yeah, just like, you know, just 12-year-olds who are people who are big fans of shit like Megadeth and Spawn when they're only 12, and people who go on about how hardcore their dad is.
Yeah.
You know the type.
The dad comment.
If you're listening to this, you know the type.
And who, like, their parents give them, like,
Yeah.
an allowance so they can buy a BB gun. And it's no issue.
And who own, like, exotic pets with ethically dubious modifications, like a cobra that's missing its poison glands. I think there was, I knew, ironically, they were named David. And I think I was friends with him for a very long time, and I think, sort of the moment that stopped is we were hanging out on a playground with his girlfriend and this other girl we knew, and then just like this other group of people just walked by, and the mousiest little weirdo just like said hi to David's girlfriend. Just, I think because he recognized her, they went to the same class, just, hey. And David just got so up in his face so immediately that, like, this kid just tried to push him away, and David's response was to just start, like, hockey fighting this kid. And I feel like that's the sort of person both David is a David.
Okay. I think you're totally right, because I recognize a lot of the traits of David, not all in one person, but, like, things like, oh, my dad is this, so therefore I'm an authority on it. Like, in fact, I had tweeted something about reading the David trilogy, and just starting to read it, and I had said, Dave, like, any kid who has a cobra under their bed must be a sociopath. Like, just in a box under their bed, that's wild. And
like, he's not even in a proper terrarium. Like, come on.
Moths had tweeted, friend of the show, Moths had tweeted back to me, but his dad works at Nintendo, though. And it was like, that is actually very accurate. Like, the type of kid who's like, oh, I know that in Smash Bros. You can turn like Jigglypuff into a Charmander if you beat it 3 times on hard or something like that. And it's like, it's official. Like, I know it. And it's like, ugh. I hate you.
Oh my god! This other time, same David, like probably, this was years before, so it wasn't a fight, it was just him being a shit. He told me that he had found and brought to life dragon fossils. And
that's amazing.
We weren't that young. It was like 10, 11 years old. So obviously I knew he definitely didn't find a dragon and bring it back to life. But he just deadpan to my face told me that, and I was like, I don't believe him, but I don't know this kid that well, and he might be a sociopath. So I just like nodded along and say, wow, that's cool, that's great. And then when we met up with more people, the first thing he says is, you'll never guess what I convinced this idiot that I did. And I'm like, you
So you're the
asshole.
idiot?
No, to David, he said to me, he told the other people we met up with, I convinced this idiot that I have a pet dragon.
Wow, that guy's a real fucking cunt. That's terrible.
He was a real piece of work. He evened out more, kind of. He's still a real piece of work. I have run into him for coffee.
David, if you're listening, David, of course, is a fan favorite of the podcast. So shout out to David. Thanks for
We
listening.
put a lot of Brayden's friends
yeah.
just right on blast on this show.
Yeah.
Most of them, me. Can I just say real quick, I do feel for there's this one part in rereading this book, I got kind of emotional at the part when like the huge fight in the bedroom and David and his dad are cowering together and everybody is fighting and Marco, morphed as the Cobra, is going up to Visser 3 to try and bite him. This is right before he morphs into this purple Gumby thing. And David, is right there, and he's like, look out, Spawn! And he picks up his pet, the lovely little Cobra that he loves. He picks him up out of harm's way. It's not his pet, it's Marco, who screams at him, put me down, you idiot! So, it's just a goof, but, David, in the middle of all this fight, he saw that his pet was in trouble, and he went to save him.
Yeah,
and
fuck.
that kind of hit me hard of okay, yeah, he fucking straight up murders a crow for no reason and is really creepy about it. But before all this, yeah, he was a shitty kid, but he was also just kind of a normal person.
Yeah, I mean,
still, he wasn't completely
he had
a psychopath.
Tons of reasons
He's
to
12.
be the way he is, and I think it's not fair to say
Yeah.
he's actually chemically imbalanced and that's why he's like that. I think it's just
No.
it's shitty. I moved around a lot when I was a kid, and I
He-
can see some of these traits in my 12-year-old self, just being insecure, being trying to make yourself bigger than you actually are, that kind of thing.
All of the Cobras that you always
Yeah,
have under
even
your bed.
today, it's really terrible. My dog, I've killed so many dogs, it's awful.
But I think it's the difference is the choices that David makes after dealing with this awful situation. Marco kind of gets up in his face as they're explaining it because David doesn't get it because it's it's a terrible thing to get. But Marco kind of sinks into a dark place and he's describing how David's parents are turning into yurt controllers and David's just thinking about his own mom becoming a yurt controller.
He goes very into detail about here's the deal. They're gonna walk your mom, your lovely mother, up to a pool, down a metal grate, and then they're gonna kick her out at the knees and pretty much drown her.
It's really vivid, and that's why I'm
So-
glad that this book was a Marco book, because I do think Marco, despite his reputation as being the jokester and whatever, is actually the most calculating. Well, he's
Savage.
just he's weighing all these things in his mind, and he's listen, the cons outweigh the pros for this. In as much as there are many pros, that's still outweighed by the cons, right?
It's so great because this literally comes into play in book 30 where he talks about how he can see the bright clear line between point A and point B. He can weigh the pros and the cons. And in this book, he talks about how his being able to do that and Rachel's being able to do that and kind of look at it harshly means they're often on the same side when deciding on should we make David an Animorph or not?
Often on the same side of penetration in sex.
Wait, that means they're both penetrating at the same
Wow,
time.
don't be
Yeah.
such a prude.
Did you not?
I'm sorry, I haven't had sex yet, so I'm really confused.
It made me think
Yeah.
of Marco as the kid who in the parent-teacher interviews, the teacher's always Marco has a lot of potential and doesn't apply himself, when the real answer to why he doesn't apply himself is because this stuff is boring. And now he's been put into a situation where it's all the potential that he has to do shit is now being put to the test, and everyone is miles behind him as far as figuring out stuff why it should or shouldn't work. Him saying this doesn't make sense, this shouldn't work, and it's only because they're extremely lucky that it does work.
And then Axe tries to explain it, and he's like, Axe, shut up!
Yeah. I know, that does kind of suck.
Don't you love it when they
Oh my god,
flirt?
we have a Visser 3 morph minute this time, for the first time in a while.
It's a
We
3
do.
morph minute.
This is a morph minute. This is a morph minute.
So this is during the fight in David's room. Visser 3 morphs into what I've put in the notes as a Graveler / Hitmonlee with pylon hands. I think because the eyes are like in the chest of this weird Hitmonlee style thing.
But he's purple, so he's a grimace Graveler.
It made me think of like a
Grimler.
mini boss from a Kirby game or something, where it's like they look kind of intimidating, but their weapons are like dumb, like pylons, right?
Except these are like, you can think of them as pylons because that's how like Marco describes them, but really they could just be like big pyramids of bone that he shoots out of his wrinkled arms.
And like in the gritty reboot of this show, that'll be a fucking amazing thing to see. But in the description, they use the word pylons way too much.
And then Marco describes what pylons are. You know those things you put around a car that's broken down on the freeway, and it's like, oh, honey, we know.
Yeah, there's not much else to say about that. I thought that was like for the first time maybe ever in the series, I had a really easy time visualizing.
Just like visualizing the monster? Yeah.
And I read it like twice because I was like...
And I appreciated that.
Yeah, totally. Because some of them, like the fucking Bladder Beast and number
the one
4.
From book 4.
Yeah, that's a really bad
with
one.
The like, and it sounds like a bunch of tongues.
I was just
licking
re-listening
the ocean.
to that episode, and yeah, I just couldn't. I still couldn't picture it after all this time.
No, I still have no idea what it looks
the
like.
Caffet Bird from a while ago. That one,
Book 18?
yeah, that one was not bad,
That one was
actually.
good.
I could kind of picture that one, too. Since we're doing segments, should we jump into OTP Alert?
OTP alert!
I don't know. Where should we start?
Big book for Marco and Rachel.
Big time.
I think.
I'm
especially
rolling my eyes out of my skull.
Tessa, this isn't for you anymore, okay?
Okay.
This is me and Mikhail making hard eye contact, very close. Like, our noses are almost touching, and we're about to jump into that sensory deprivation chamber of shipping.
I mean, like, speaking of, I actually went to one of those. So now, Mikhail, you and I can fight Brayden on sensory deprivation chambers.
That's right. You did actually go... This is a total sidebar, but...
I went to one of those.
Deprivation tank.
They're interesting. Very salty.
Like that.
I heard it hurts your genitals.
That's only because of the sores you have on yours, Brayden.
It's fine because I don't I don't have any genitals,
That
so
makes
I was
sense.
okay.
Yeah, it's like a Barbie doll. Ugh, I don't want to picture
Yeah.
that. Fuck. God damn it.
Yes, Mikhail, stop picturing my genitals, you
Stop
weirdo.
talking about them.
Get out of here.
Okay.
Talking.
There's one part
Okay.
where Marco or Rachel is like, if I'm Xena, what does that make you? And Marco's like, I'm Hercules. And I was like, fucking, that is the thesis of their whole relationship is like,
There's a bit at the beginning where like Rachel like teases him, and then Marco's description is like she bats her eyelashes at me to show that she's kidding. I love it when she does that. And it's like, oh my god, Marco, your boner is like so tall.
and like later, I think when they were making the decision about David, Marco is like, well, Rachel will definitely vote with me because we always agree on this. And then she pulls a fast one and is like, no, I disagree with Marco. We should make David an Animorph. And I thought that was a weird,
damn it.
like...
She was on his team for the longest time, and then she's like, you know what? Cassie just had all that shit with a butterfly and Hope. I'm gonna lead with the Cassie team, with Hope
It
and...
was before Bros, baby.
It goes back, I was just re-listening to episode 12, the reaction, and we put forward the fan theory. We didn't bring it forward. We just talked about how some people believe that Rachel might have ADHD, and that would explain some of her less predictable behaviors.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that a person who could predict her behaviors found that they couldn't in this particular instance, and it just comes back to that point.
I think it was just a case of Rachel suddenly changed her mind. I mean, I still like the Rachel has ADHD headcanon, but like, I mean, people change their minds, and Marco just was not expecting Rachel to change hers because she had held it with such conviction, like, no, we should not turn David into an Animorph. It's a bad idea. And then she was like, you know what? Let's try
I
it.
think that because Cassie had just made a short speech about, like, why it makes sense to make him an Animorph, ultimately, like, Cassie and Rachel are still a much stronger relationship than anyone else.
They're way tighter
Rachel,
than,
yeah.
Yeah.
So I could see, like, in that sense, I was like, okay, it's not totally unreal. They also
Yeah.
made the decision really
Oh.
quickly, which I thought was a bad idea.
Yeah. Still on the OTP alert, if anybody wants to say anything about the OTP alert, but something I found very interesting is Axe's reaction. When he's asked, he just says, Prince Jake, I'm yours. I do not have the right to say, as a sub, you are my prince. Your orders are law.
It's not sexual, Brayden.
I know it's not sexual. Did I make it sound sexual?
Yeah, you said sub.
Not sub.
You're not talking about a sandwich
Wow.
here.
Oh, well, sub. Sex invented that word. It's only
Subordinates is the word that
continents.
you mean. If you just shorten it, then it's during OTP alert. Forgive me for making you saying sexual.
OTP alert is about the brilliance and heart-touching emotions that come from us wanting two people to fall in love and to watch that
Okay.
energy and emotion.
And
Sex
to watch
comes
them
after.
fuck.
Anyway, when they twist Axe's arm and say, no, you have to vote, he does go against Jake and says, no, this is a bad idea. We are a guerrilla group. But what's really interesting to me is Axe does not say a lot of what is on his mind. That sort of When will we know, other than Axe books, what he's really thinking?
Because, like, he has a kind of moment where it's like in a war movie
was
where
really
it's like
great.
permission to speak freely. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where normally
Yeah.
you don't get an opinion. It's your sergeant that tells you what to do and tells everyone what the right thing is.
Exactly.
But this is like clearly Axe. I think personally Axe was conflicted as well as being loyal to Jake. But it would have been easier for Axe to just say, "Oh, I'll just do whatever Jake says."
Well, it wasn't easier for him.
Just to remember, Jake had not made his decision yet, and that's what Marco was banking on because he knew that Jake would not go against what the group would want, right? Like so Jake was like, "Yeah, Axe, speak freely," and Axe was like, "No, but like literally all of my training says that I have to do what you tell me," and Jake was like, "Yeah, well, I'm telling you to make your own opinion,"
and
Axe
all
was
the
like,
rest
"Fine."
of his training says, "Don't make David an."
Because that's the smart thing.
And I
to do.
felt it was really interesting. Yeah, I really felt it was interesting that they went against the instincts of the only career soldier in this group.
Yeah. No, later on in the series, we kind of get to see Axe's point of view more in other people's books, but it does take a while because of all of that training of like, okay, don't share. Like, he's still very private.
Don't share. Don't talk back to commanders. Follow orders.
I personally think in his character arc in general, Axe is young. Like, it is easier for him to latch onto a prince, right? It's easier for him to be like, listen, this person's my boss. He can tell me what to do. Because every time that he tries to do something that's like outside of the scope of what the Animorphs are doing, it goes bad. Like when he goes to the satellite to
fucks up
contact his
bad.
people, when they get sucked into like the Lyran war, and then he trusts the captain, and the captain's a total traitor. So at this point, he's probably terrified to do anything other than what the gang kind of is okay with.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I guess in this particular, it rang very much true with me. I guess the idea that there is a child, of course, but a much more trained child. A child much more in tune with the worlds of warfare, with the worlds of these alien relations, with the worlds of the Escafil device and what could happen if it goes wrong.
Totally.
And his opinion is this will go wrong, and from what I've read so far, it seems he was dead on, even though he was gonna say nothing.
I think
and that's fascinating.
an analogy wouldn't be far off to say, like, if you send a 16-year-old back to the year, like, 1200, and people are like, shit, like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, how do we get this I don't know, how do we like power our flour mill? Like by donkeys, I guess. And the kid's like, there's a river right there, just build a water wheel.
Yeah.
And it's like, obviously the kid knows how to do that because of learning from history, right? I think Axe is in the same position. That doesn't mean like where he's like super, super smart and can like analyze all these positions quickly and carefully.
Yeah.
He has a lot of technical knowledge, but he has literally no practical knowledge in the war. Like by the time they met Axe, the kids had already had 3 books worth of missions under their belt. They had already been doing this fighting thing. So Axe
if that 16-year-old kid were to go back in time and the king was like, no, we're not building satanic water wheels, that kid would be like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, fuck. Because he's a fucking kid. Do you know what I mean? Even if the water wheel is the smart thing to do, he wouldn't force the point. And I feel like Axe is in the same position. He's basically like from the future at this point.
I mean, I thought it was understood that Axe was exactly the same age as the other kids. Did we not talk about that already?
Well, then it's like, do they count age the same way? I mean, I think he's the same age emotionally, but not the same age intellectually, if that makes sense.
No, because he's so much further ahead of them.
I mean, he does say that all the time. Explicitly.
I love Axe.
Okay.
It was mainly a dig at you, Mikhail, because you kept calling him stupid for the first, like, all of book 8. You called him stupid.
I still think he's stupid.
So sad.
I still think
I don't think he's stupid. I think he's like high intelligence, really low wisdom, because he has no practical, like, he has no real life experience.
Yes.
Well, he comes from a society where, like, he went through, I'm going to take a bit of a leap here and say he probably went through at least what Andalites think of as an elementary school education. And then he was fast-tracked to be a warrior.
Right.
Because that's what his rigid, structured society... We've seen that in the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. Women aren't warriors. We've seen that in books where we talk to Andalites, where they say that there are laws and there are structures more important than anybody's individual needs or desires at any given time, not just war times. The fact that Axe is a warrior has superseded all other, not only education, but just general life skills.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Do we, just to keep us on track here, do we have anything else to say about the way that David is in this one? Or like just the general, because this is the first time we've ever seen the last line of a book say, to be continued.
To be continued.
Yeah. Very brief point. On the cover of this book, it says there's a 6th Animorph in town, and that's because the editors believed that Axe was not an Animorph. The Animorphs were just the humans, and it was always the Animorphs and Axe on the back of the book, or in any of the taglines. Yeah. So, that's why they say that there's a 6th Animorph, which I always thought was wrong because I believe Axe is one of the Animorphs.
And Marco says continually, Axe, you're an Animorph now.
Yeah. And, like, I think this was a sticking point between the authors and the editors, but it just wasn't, it didn't matter so much, so they didn't make it a big deal, but, like, I believe the authors wrote it as Axe being the Animorph. I mean, obviously they did, because Marco says it all the time.
I'd just like to say, I really liked the fight in David's room.
Oh my god, yes.
I thought it was a very interesting, very cramped fight. But it was essentially, it was very
explained
well-described.
so well.
Yes.
I could visualize it entirely. It was amazing.
Also, Brayden, V3 versus Axe.
V3 versus Axe. They used their fucking upper bodies and shit. It was dope as hell.
Yes, I had a...
It's like Michael must have heard, and he went back in time and had it edited for me.
I had a memory gasm in it because it paid off everything that we missed out in 18. Good stuff. Also, Marco, I have one last note here on page 75. Marco is talking about how immigrants become Americans and how, like, you shouldn't think of... I can't remember what the context for, but he's like, once you're American, you're all American.
He's talking about making David an animal.
Right.
You can start like the Americanization ceremony being like you're Cuban or Mexican or something, and then as soon as you're sworn in, you're American, full stop. Yeah. And he got emotional because he said that his mom was born in a different country.
I mean, I don't know if he got emotional, but he definitely
got a little emotional.
Next week, in our bi-weekly episode of Live from the Gardens, we'll be talking about the king cobra and other snakes with Adam Heap, who was our guest on the Megamorph number 1 episodes from way back when. He is actually, his background is in herpetology, and he's done studies and blah, 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 but he's very smart, much smarter than us. So we've entrusted him to become the guest host of that episode of Live from the Gardens, which will be just me and Brayden, because Tessa, where are you going to be?
She's dead.
Oh, yeah, right.
She's dead. We shot her in this episode, remember? It's canon now.
literally just got bit by a cobra.
Yep.
I don't know how to tell you guys.
We're going to have to spend an extra week finding an alternate dimension copy of her to put in this version.
I feel like I'm growing weak.
Oh, no.
God.
Oh, jeez.
Tessa, where can you find more of our stuff?
The light is fading from my eyes.
But
I
say
have
the thing
a
before you
heart-beating
die.
breath in my lungs, and you can find us on Facebook and on Tumblr and on Twitter. We've got a bunch of memes we post and discussions about the episodes, and we love listening to our fans.
You can also find us on collectivelegacy.org. There'll be a short eulogy for
Also
Tessa
that.
on there. I'll probably delete that after a couple days. I mean,
Yeah. Remember to subscribe on iTunes.
Please, it's my
and
dying
find us
wish.
on SoundCloud, wherever fine podcasts are distributed.
But not SoundCloud.
Please.
but
Not
literally
SoundCloud.
not SoundCloud.
that's okay.
Okay. Anyway, rest in peace, Tessa. I'm not paying for your funeral.
Oh, God, no.
It's okay.
We should get a GoFundMe going so we can fund Tessa's funeral.
Because it's basically just like a healthcare funding thing now. Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of
I
sad.
mean, that's how fucked up the
Unfortunately.
healthcare system is in the world that you can't afford to do anything.
Yeah.
For the Animorphs, my name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa, and I'm a ghost.
I'm Brayden, and you know what? My cat is alive right now, and I thought that was a possibility that she wouldn't be by the end of today, so I'm very happy.
That's really sad, but you really missed an opportunity to have a rhyming word, because I was the host, Tessa was the ghost, and you're the most. And this has been Animorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. If you're looking for more Animorphs content, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for Animorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.
Hello everyone, my name is Jared, and this is Two Nerds in a Basement. Once a week, me and another nerd watch one of the over 70 movies put out by Marvel or DC Comics over the last 50 years, and talk about them for far too long.
Can we just take a moment to address the fact that Howard the Duck looks like Martin Sheen?
You just want a Jimmy Olsen torture scene, right?
Something. Don't just shoot him in the head. Like, string him up by his toenails and just go to town on him.
He's just got this scratchy voice. It's so annoying.
What's our solution to nuclear warfare, 10-year-olds?
It's like, I want to be a witch. I want to you explore the black magics, and you get the aesthetic of your dreams, right?
I went straight to the boob grabbing. Hang on. Let me get there.
Brought to you by
Collective Legacy.
a podcast network.